First of all, I did not say the United States is a threat to Russia. Like you said, President Obama does consider Russia a threat, but I do not regard the United States as a threat for us. I do believe that the policies of the ruling elite in the United States, if you excuse me this cliché, is erroneous. I am sure it is contrary not only to Russia's interest, it also undermines confidence for the United States. And as such, it actually inflicts damage on the US itself. It undermines its confidence as one of the global leaders, both in the economy and in the world of politics. Of course, you can omit a lot of things. You can actually be silent about a lot of things. But Dominic has said it, and me too. This unilateral action and the consequent search of allies and coalitions once everything has already been done, this is not a way to come to terms. This is unilateral action, and we see it implemented and employed recurrently in US policies, and they all lead to crisis. President Obama mentioned the Islamic State as one other threat. But tell me, who actually initially helped arm the people who were fighting the Assad governments in Syria? Who was the one providing them with a favorable media climate, with a favorable media environment? Who facilitated arms sales to those people? Don't you know who is actually fighting in Syria? It's mercenaries. Do you know that mercenaries are people who fight for money, and they actually fight where the pay is higher? They get certain amounts of money as payment for waging war. They have arms supplied to them. But once they find out that in another country the pay is higher, they will actually migrate there because they're looking for more pay. They managed to gain control of some oil deposits in Iraq or in Syria. They started pumping oil there. Do they have buyers who buy oil from them? Yes, they do. Why aren't sanctions imposed against those buyers? Doesn't the United States know who those people are? Isn't it their own allies who actually buy oil from terrorists? Don't they have the capacity to influence their allies? Or is it that they don't want to influence them? If not, why are they delivering airstrikes against ISIS right now? Once they started developing oil in Iraq, part of the fighters immediately migrated from the so-called moderate, civilized opposition to Assad to ISIS, because they wanted more money. So I think those policies of the United States are so badly detached from reality. They wanted to support this democratic, civilized opposition in Syria. They handed them arms. The next day, figuratively speaking, the next day, half of those fighters turned around and joined ISIS. And that should have been expected. We believe this attitude eventually harms everyone's interests, including ours. As for American policies, I would love to see people like you heading the Department of State in the US, because maybe then we could change the situation. Unless that is possible, I would request you, I would bid you to bring this idea over to the US President or the State Secretary. Tell them that Russia does not seek confrontation. As long as you respect our interests, a lot of the issues between us will be resolved. But that will have to be actual respect, not only ostensible, proclaimed respect. That means refraining from exploiting your domination, your exclusive competitive edge in the economy or in military sphere, in everything. Take Iraq. There is fighting in Iraq. It's bad in Iraq. Take Libya, where you actually led it to a point where the American ambassador was killed by a mob. Was Russia guilty of that? At some point, it was you who decided to establish a no-fly zone in Libya to prevent Gaddafi's air force from delivering airstrikes on fighters. That was your decision. Whether it was rational or not, it's up to you. But eventually, what you see is delivering airstrikes on that territory yourself without any mandate from the UN Security Council. Was it Russia doing that? No, it was you. And it ended up with the US ambassador being killed in Libya. Whose fault is this? This is only your fault. Is that good for the US that its ambassador was murdered in Libya? Of course not. That was a terrible catastrophe, a tragedy. But you should not point fingers and look for someone to blame if it was your mistake. You need to be able to get over your own urge for domination and your imperial ambition. You need to refrain from poisoning the mindset of millions of people by leading them to believe that the US can have no foreign policies other than imperial foreign policies. We will never forget that Russia assisted the US in winning independence. We will never forget our cooperation during the First World War and World War II. I believe that our deep-lying strategic interests are largely similar between Russia and the US. And we should proceed from those mutual interests.